What's up, everyone? This is Mondays with Vish. I'm not Vish. I'm Grant. That's Vish Kumaran, and he's the expert of the show, although I know football too. And if he says stuff that I disagree with, I'm going to tell him. But basically, I'm here to ask him what he thinks because I respect what Vish has to say. Vish, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. We usually talk the day after the game. The Niners played 2 days ago, but it's still fresh. So before we get into big picture stuff, because season's almost over and the Niners have huge decisions to make, and not just a quarterback. We're going to get into all that. Let's talk about your thoughts from this, what I thought was a surprising win over Arizona.
Yeah, coaching clinic. That would be my absolute gist of the game. Robert Saleh, Kyle Shanahan. It was just a game planning clinic. One thing I thought that was interesting, and the reason I didn't think the Niners could really win this game is because Kyle Shanahan has not been able to run the ball against Vance Joseph's defense the last few times they've played. Vance Joseph has done a really good job with multiple fronts and blitzing at the right times and with the run fits and making sure that they're stopping this run game. They put on a run game clinic, and it was a run blocking clinic. And you can see how much confidence this offense gets from being able to run the ball, because a lot of these guys, the best thing they do is run block. And I thought that was great. I thought it helped CJ Beathard a lot. I mean, I think this was his first game that he really got to play where they didn't drop him back with an inferior offensive line, bad offensive weapons, and he was just getting smoked all game. This was probably the least I've ever seen CJ Beathard get hit in his career, and he played fine because of it. I thought that was an awesome story. Like, hey, CJ Beathard coming back, beating Arizona, all of that was a beautiful storyline. I love that for CJ Beathard. But overall, the word is coaching clinic. Robert Saleh, that defense, they would have pitched a shutout if Kyler Murray wasn't the opposing quarterback. They ate up everything. They put on a show. It was an absolute clinic, especially to do it without Jimmy Ward playing in this game. I thought that was a really big deal because Jimmy Ward does so much to help this defense and help the players around him. For Robert Saleh to be creative in the sense with all those blitzes of, hey, we're going to make them shift their line this way by putting 8 guys and mugging our front, and then we're going to fire zone blitz from the other side, and Kyler's going to have nowhere to escape because we're going to leak out or D-tackle as the spy to the other side. Those things were so creative. It was so subtle because it doesn't change what his players are doing, but it's creative enough where it confuses the offense and totally screws with their plan of their short pass game. And then the other detail that I thought Robert Saleh, big improvement from week 1, was they put hands on DeAndre Hopkins and these wide receivers. There was not easy access. There weren't many free releases. They were very physical with them. I thought that was a really great adjustment from Robert Saleh, and they totally disrupted the timing of that short passing game. And it was just, again, it just comes back to just a game planning clinic.
Well, let's talk about the first part of the what you said, the offense, and the Niners, Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel finding a way to run on Vance Joseph. It took them 4 games. They couldn't do it last year. They couldn't do it week 1. And to me, it seems like what happened is the Cardinals and Vance Joseph do a great job of setting the edge and not letting Raheem Mostert get outside. He hasn't really done well against Vance Joseph. Like, every time he plays, he kind of struggles. And so what the Niners were able to do in this game is say, okay, well, we're going to run like between the guards with Jeff Wilson Jr. You want to give us the inside? Great. Watch us run for 8 yards a pop with Jeff Wilson Jr. And the Arizona Cardinals weren't ready for that. They couldn't adjust. That's what I
right. And the way they package it also is brilliant, right? They'll run the same trap play or using a power play. They'll run it from under center, right, with 21 personnel and have Kyle Juszczyk as the lead blocker. Then they'll run the same play from shotgun and have Juszczyk from a split back look, and Juszczyk is still the lead blocker, but the entire run looks totally different to the defense, even though it's the same for the offense. They're so brilliant that way, and being able to run the football. I think the other thing is, I think 3-4 defenses for the most part do because inherently, if both outside linebackers come up, it's a 5-man front, which I think helps stop the outside zone because you have 2 wider guys setting the edge. I think they do. I think that's Vance Joseph is an attacking 3-4. That's what he calls his defense. And so that helps him stop this outside zone run game. And the fact that they went in between the tackles and did that was brilliant. And
I think to stop the Niners run game, you really got to sell out with that 6-man front. You got to pack the middle and set the edge, because
you need big people.
You really do. You need excellent players, and you need to stack the front because if you prevent them from going outside, they got Jeff Wilson. And if you prevent them from going between the tackles, he can get to the edge too.
Right, agree. You need big people who get up the field. Yep. New England tried it all, right? But New England didn't have the size to play this run game, so they got absolutely mollywopped. You need
Washington
big people.
Has it.
Right.
Philly has it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Washington, right? Everybody wanted to talk about Chase Young in that game, but the guy that really wrecked that game was Daron Payne. He was too big. He was too physical. He was getting up the field, and he absolutely destroyed the run game. He's a very good player. And then Jonathan Allen just whooped Laken Tomlinson in that game. So yeah, Chiefs had it, right? You need big people who get up the field, and you need to show multiple fronts. But this was just a coaching clinic.
And so we're going to transition to the next topic, which is Kyle. But what we're going to talk about with Kyle is some, to use a Vishism, some nuanced critique. And we're praising Kyle because he just did a great job. But some people say he can't do anything wrong. So we're going to talk about that. But what we're saying is he put on a coaching clinic, and he does it pretty much every week with his game plan.
Yes.
His game plans are usually right on point in terms of what it takes to beat.
They're brilliant.
They're always right. So let's get into Kyle. When we talk about what Kyle could do better, it's not that he's not a good coach. We put him in the top echelon and critique him as such. We're putting you at the top echelon, and that's how we're grading you. We agree that your great game plans are great. So we look at not little things, but we dig deep. And so what do you see?
So yeah, I did have a critique of Kyle from that game. And so when I critique Kyle, right, first, I think he's one of the 5 or 6 best head coaches in the NFL. And I think if he's the best long-term young coach in the NFL, just because Andy Reid and Belichick are a bit old, that's how highly I think of him. So I grade him on a scale where I look at Mike Tomlin and Bill Belichick and Andy Reid. I think he's that good. And I think he's proven that from a game planning standpoint, ability to develop players standpoint, ability to develop coaches standpoint, he is that level of head coach. Mm-hmm. Where I had a problem with him on Saturdays, because I thought that he nearly almost lost that game before they could actually win it. And where I say that is because so when I come to critiquing coaches, I hate critiquing play calls because to me, critiquing play calls is a result-oriented evaluation. You see the play, you see that it doesn't work, and then you say a different play would work.
That's not analysis.
No, that's just saying that didn't work, so do this. Where I critique him is decisions and game plan choices.
Right.
Well, did you have the right plan? Well, with Kyle, he always has the right plan. Or if he doesn't have the right plan by the second quarter, he's adjusted to the right plan. So you can't really critique that because for the most part, he's right on. But there are a few in-game decisions that I think sometimes are perplexing. And for me, the one that made no sense was when they got the ball with 30 seconds on the 25-yard line, why with CJ Beathard did they try to go down the field? You have 30 seconds and 2 timeouts. Arizona has only 2 timeouts, so you can take that ball to half, okay? You're up 7-6, and CJ Beathard has played the best half of his career. Why do you risk, what's the risk-reward ratio in trying to take that ball down the field? And, CJ did fumble, but they were a play before that. They were a play away from just losing that game right there because yes, Kyle called the right play. Yes, Jet McKinnon was open on that delayed little out route, but CJ threw an awful ball because he's CJ Beathard, and it was nearly a pick six, but the guy dropped it. And that's the kind of play where if it was a pick six, yes, it is CJ Beathard's fault, but you don't put there's no point in 30 seconds and 2 timeouts to go down that field, especially when you're getting the ball in the second half. Why not just take that into half? Great half, pump up the guys, come back. You know that you're going to get in halftime and get a couple good adjustments and run the football down the field on your first drive of the second half. Everybody knows that you're going to be able to do that. Where was the thought process in, hey, 30 seconds, especially let's look at your pass game. George Kittle played 27, 28 snaps. So it wasn't like you were just going to be able to throw to him all that drive. So your pass game is Brandon Ayuk, a couple of third string type wide receivers, Ross Dwelly, with CJ Beathard throwing the ball. Jet McKinnon is your back out of the backfield. And this is Jet McKinnon 2 years removed from missing 2 years from an ACL. And then an offensive line that's not always great in just drop back pass pro, especially the right side of your offensive line, especially because Justin School is already hurt. So yes, I'm going to be
great in pass pro.
I'm going to be a little nicer, man.
You can say
be a little nicer.
In pass pro, they stink in pass pro. They do good.
Sure.
Running. Run
They
blocking,
struggle.
okay.
They struggle. They
Okay.
struggle. So the thing is, in that situation, it was like, yeah, he was calling the right plays. Yeah, I see where I just don't understand the entire thought process. That's when you just eat it, go into half, and bring it out. That decision was just perplexing with Kyle for me. And I think there's a few over the years that you can really hone in on. Like, I don't understand like why he didn't trust his players here, but then he trusted CJ Beathard with 30 seconds and 2 timeouts in what is technically still a road game against a division rival who's a playoff team.
Yeah,
I was confused by the decision, and I think that is something that he can get better at, because I think he's so good with his game plans that even with this team, if he's just a tiny bit better in that area of his coaching, he could even win 8 games with this kind of a team, because he's that good.
But what I'm saying is, if CJ Beathard had thrown that pick 6, which was, I mean, dying to get picked off,
they'd have lost the game.
If that had happened, everyone would have been dumping on CJ. It would have been CJ's fault from all the media and all the press, but it's really not. You know, football is way more complicated than that. And it is CJ's fault in the sense that he threw the ball and he's not that good and he should be better. But it's Kyle's fault for even trying that 2-minute drill. The way I look at it is, if you actually try with this team to do a series of drop back passes one after another,
oh yeah, your quarterback's gonna get hit.
Something bad's gonna happen. And it's like, they got 4 plays off, I think, on that drive. Like, there's no way that they can execute drop back passes perfectly at like more than a 50% clip. You're going to have a penalty, or you're going to miss a block, or there's going to be a drop, or something bad. Something.
Right. It's not just Grant's not saying it's just the offensive line. It's the fact that the offensive line struggles in pass pro. Then you go to the fact that the quarterbacks don't really move that well in the pocket, and you're playing with two receivers that have not played a lot of football with Brandon Ayuk. No, George Kittle is in and out. It's like there's so many moving parts, which is why that situation just feels like just take it into half.
So it's like it may not happen on the first play. It may not happen on the second play, but I mean, come on, it's going to happen, and you know it's going to happen. You don't have to do this, Kyle.
Right, and you don't
have to do this.
You go back to the Miami game, right? Jimmy throws the pick. The half is already a disaster. I think it was 45 or 50 seconds. They went back out, and Jimmy threw another pick and ended the ball game. Now, that one I get a little bit more, because you're not getting the ball to start the second half, and you're trying to get some momentum because you're getting obliterated. But this one I don't get. You're winning. There's no way they can stop the clock. You can't give the ball back to them. There's only 30 seconds, and you're playing with a third-string quarterback and you've had a good half as a team. There was no need. The best case scenario for them was that they would have gotten like a 50, 55-yard field goal and Robbie Gould. Would he have made it? Who knows? But the worst case scenario was the second worst case scenario was what happened. The first worst case scenario was what almost happened.
Yeah. All I can say, and we'll move on from Kyle after this, is he is an expert play designer. Maybe the best one in the world, up there with Sean Payton, if not the best. He's also an expert game planner, as we've said. But he doesn't have much experience with like game management stuff. Those are usually head coaching executive decisions, not on the offensive coordinator. And he's been a head coach for 4 years. It took Andy Reid a long time. Is he even good at game management, or does he just have Patrick Mahomes now? Maybe this is just
I don't think Andy Reid's game management is still good. They throw the ball still way too much.
Shanahan's more of a creative mind. Like, he can think of the play, the game plan, but this stuff is much more analytical risk assessment. It's like it's a different part of your brain.
So where I push back a little bit with Kyle is that with him, I feel like, one, he's obviously young and still growing, so we got to give him that benefit about that doubt. But two, we occasionally see just brilliant like thought process and game management where he's able to take a minute 35 clock and they take the drive all the way to half and kick a field goal. They did that like 3 different times last year. And we see brilliant sense from him of, hey, this is the clock. This is how I want to manage it. And he analyzes it. It's just, I don't understand the inconsistency with it, because there's times where I say he's right on, but I don't know why there's times like last game, like against Arizona, where 30 seconds, 2 timeouts, it's a no-brainer, eat it into half.
There was one more series in the fourth quarter. It was a 3-and-out. And the first play was the throw to Kittle that Kittle dropped. You could say, hey, good play, should have caught it. But again, he'd been out a while. Executing pass plays is really hard. So the first play is a pass. They don't execute it. Now they're in 2nd and 10. Second play is the zone read to Beathard. He gains 2 yards, 3rd and 8. And now you're in 3rd and 8. So again, that was the other one when I'd have been like, but basically the rest of the game, what I want to say with Kyle is the objective was to avoid drop back passes as much as possible. And he basically did that. And it just goes to show you that he could do that every week. And if he had done that a little bit more in the past this season, just been a little bit more conservative, maybe they'd have 8 wins instead of 6. Who knows? And you know what? In the grand scheme of things, maybe it doesn't matter because it's kind of a lost season. But if he can improve and get those 2 extra wins every season, it'll add up and it'll make him a better coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thing is that the reason Grant says he should win those games is not because he screwed up royally or anything. He's saying your game plan is so good and you've gotten these guys to execute so much where you can protect them just a little bit where they don't make the mistake. Just avoid making that mistake with them a little bit. Because the thing with it's like a LeBron syndrome, right? LeBron, why didn't you win the finals when you took George Hill and J.R. Smith to the finals? That's the kind of situation Kyle's in right now. Kyle, you've taken these third stringers, you've created such a game plan that you're in this game. You're right there. And, maybe it's too much to ask of you. Maybe it is a nitpick. But the way I see it is that I think that if you make that one decision differently in terms of your game management standpoint, not your play calling, not your play designing, or your decision in terms of maybe, hey, how am I going to attack them on this drive thing? From that standpoint, then you could possibly win these games too because you're that good.
Yeah, everything about how he called this game and everything about his game plan was safety first. Let's protect the offensive line. Let's win with our run game and defense. Let's protect CJ. All it's going to be is handoffs, play action passes to the running backs and the tight ends. I mean, the wide receivers weren't even in the game. No need to throw outside the numbers or anything down the field or anything difficult. And it's like, yeah, dude, you can do that all the time. Like perfect execution, perfect plan. When you get, if you get Carson Wentz or Matthew Stafford, you don't got to do that anymore. You can go do whatever you want to do. But as long as you got these quarterbacks, you kind of have to coach this way. So good for you. You did it. Really great. I know he doesn't want to. I think he wants to be, Mike Martz. He wants to have the best offense in the league. But you're a couple years away from that. So
I disagree, actually. I don't think he does because he's drafted defense and been about building his defense here. So I do think he has all the tools and he does see the right perspective. I'm just hoping that he grows just that little bit more because he's so close. Yeah. He's so close to being the top coach in the NFL. He just needs a little bit of maybe like a Mike Tomlin where, hey, I'm going to be just a game manager right here as a head coach rather than focusing on what my offense can do and how I can attack them. I'm just going to manage this side for my offense right now. If he had that just a little bit more, I think it would do his total coaching ability.
He built his career and became the top offensive coordinator, the top paid head coach by being the aggressive go for it coordinator. Now he's set for life. He's got a head coaching job. He can kind of become more of the head coach and be like, you know what, I can mute my offense a little bit here. It doesn't reflect on me if the offense is ranked 20th this year. It's okay. We can win another way. And I think that's where he's getting to. Let's move on. Let's talk Saleh because as good of a job as Kyle Shanahan is doing, Robert Saleh is doing at least as good of a job. Where do you see him? What's next for Robert?
Yeah, head coaching gig. That's it. Yeah. He's gone. I thought what he did yesterday, and I felt the game plan was just absolutely brilliant. Just going back to what I talked about first, having them slide their protection and all those fire zone blitzes, Arizona couldn't pick them up. And that's because from what I've read and understand, the air raid offense doesn't have a very complex protection scheme. It's simple. So they beat that protection scheme to death. And then the number 2 thing was
because it's only 5 and 6 man protections. That's all it is.
Right.
I mean, basically, it's 5 guys and maybe a running back who slides one way or the other based on, you know what I mean? It's probably you can figure it out in 10 minutes.
Right. And then the other thing was I still read on Twitter, right? He can't stop the mobile quarterback when Kyler Murray runs for 20 yards. Like, how are you supposed to stop that? Please explain it to me.
Right.
The guy is running. He might be the fastest. He's as fast as Tyreek Hill. That's how it looks sometimes because he just shoots out of a cannon and decides, I'm going to go get this because the play call stinks. And so Cliff's play call, that is. And so the other thing was they were super physical with these receivers and they were jumping these shorter routes.
Real quick, before we move on from Kyler, the thing about with Kyler, I think is key is it's not he's going to run for 50, as you said, but you can't let these mobile quarterbacks escape to their right because then they can run or throw. If they run to their left, they're running, and you can corral them and you can hit them and you can do what you got to do, but you can't let them get to the right. And that's what Josh Allen did. That's what Carson Wentz did. Okay, I'm just chilling on the right here, and now I can wait. No, you can't let that happen. And they stopped that. So
they blitzed into where they thought they were going to force him to escape. And the other thing was they would drop out their defensive tackle because he doesn't step up in the pocket. He likes to go around and escape he's that fast. He's that fast. Yeah. So since he doesn't step up in the pocket, you don't have to have your defensive tackle push the pocket. Right. You can have him drop off and kind of run him down. And, everybody was like, oh, DJ Jones did remember when he ran down Kyle Allen? He can really explode.
Contavious Street is fast too.
And his job isn't to go tackle Kyler in the open field. It's just to move Kyler closer to the sideline, and then they'll rally and tackle him. But yeah, I thought the game plan was brilliant. I thought it just emphasized on why he should be a head coach. Yeah, Cliff did that because
we're going to talk about Cliff a little later. Yeah, Golden Nuggets. We got a lot to say, but we need to stick with Saleh. Dude's really good. Everyone's going to do that from now on. I mean, that's now what they're going to face. I think it's if you can't just play like where you have a Jalen Ramsey or a Gilmore that you can put on DeAndre Hopkins because that's the easiest way to stop them, right? Because DeAndre Hopkins is really their only weapon. Yes. And Verrette had a great game, but it wasn't like Verrette took him in man the entire game. No. They did a lot of different things, but the one thing Verrette did was he was really physical with him at the line of scrimmage, and he really made him work. Verrette, I think you really highlighted this after the game, that Verrette basically just emphasized in that game why he needs to be one of their most sought after. Step back. He was the difference between week 1 and week 16. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. So he's fantastic. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I would agree with the overall assessment I think everybody has. Like Robert Saleh is for sure going to be a head coach. And I really hope he's going to be a really good one too, just because I really like Robert Saleh. I know I've been critical of Robert Saleh, but the guy is fantastic just as a person. He's impossible to not like as a person. So I hope
he gets that job in Jacksonville.
If I'm him, that's the one I was
obviously.
Yeah, that's the one I'm going for. Because to me, Washington is, I just read Washington releasing Haskins here in the comments, so I went there. But to me, Jacksonville is the job of jobs. To me, that's a playoff team next year. Here's why. You get Trevor Lawrence, who's supposed to be the generational quarterback prospect. And I think he's that good. He looks just fantastic. And you get that. And at every premium, they have $80 million of cap space. 5 picks in the top 65. And at every premium position, they have a young, cheap player with a ton of potential because he was picked in a higher round. They have 2 pass rushers like that in Josh Allen and Caleb Von Chason. They have a corner in CJ Henderson, and they have a right tackle in Juwan Taylor, who was a second-round pick. So if Saleh wants to get a job, that would be the job because that's a playoff team to me. And that, if it's built right, can be a juggernaut.
Let me ask you a better question about Saleh, because it really doesn't matter where he goes from Niner fans' perspective. What matters from Niner fans' perspective is who's going with him, especially on the coaching staff, and what will his loss mean to this team? The way I look at it is, it almost reminds me a little bit of when Kyle left Atlanta. I mean, now, Kyle's a lot better than Dan Quinn, but Saleh has carried this team the last 2 years. As good as the offense has been, it's been a defensive team. He's going to take some position coaches too. It's going to be interesting. What do you think is going to happen to this team and this defense when he leaves?
So 2 things. One, I still think the defense is going to end up being okay. I don't think the new coordinator is going to be as good as Robert Saleh, but I think Kyle Shanahan is that good at managing the entire picture when it comes to his coaches and players in terms of development. I think they're going to find a way to still game plan well. And the other thing is,
plus, if he can find the original Robert Saleh, they can probably find the next Robert Saleh.
Right. And if my thing is, if they drafted Brandon Ayuk, they drafted Deebo Samuel, they drafted Jalen Hurd, they drafted Kittle, they're about to pay Trent Williams, they drafted Mike McGlinchey. The evolution of this team is to now flip. It should be an offensive team, bit more with good defensive players on a middling defense.
Agree.
So that's where I think that change is going to happen, especially if they get their quarterback then it should be an offensive team. I mean, this offense is loaded too. And you have a defense that still will have Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, hopefully Jason Verrette, Jimmy Ward, players of that caliber. It should still be a pretty to very good defense. It won't be as good without Robert Saleh, but I think they'll be okay.
Well, final question on this. Who do you think would replace him?
So I really would like it to be Raheem Morris. But
is his stock not through the roof right now? I mean, they should have.
I don't understand, but I've been preaching Raheem Morris. I feel like since week 5 and week 6. Man. I thought he would be Kyle Shanahan's original defensive coordinator, and then Dan Quinn blocked him. He saved Dan Quinn's job last year by switching over from receivers coach to defensive coordinator. I thought he didn't get a fair shake in Tampa Bay because he did go 10-6 with Josh Freeman, and he shut out the 49ers at Candlestick with Josh Freeman. Pretty impressive.
I think it's going to be him.
I think it should be him. But then Kyle yesterday said that we have guys here. So the other guy would be everybody's saying DeMeco Ryans. But I think another name to watch if Saleh doesn't take him is the guy from Jacksonville they brought in as the pass game coordinator, Rutenberg. Right. They brought him in as a pass game defensive coordinator, which to me indicates that maybe if you're giving him a coordinator title, then you're probably thinking that maybe he can be your defensive coordinator. I don't know what they think of him. I don't know if he's just a solid guy. I know nothing like that, but he's just another name that I don't think has been circulated, but it's a possible one to watch. But I think the more likely
he might be more of an idea guy. I think they're grooming DeMeco as the kind of like a
probably
like Ken Norton, but good.
Right.
Kind of.
Right.
So what I would say is I think DeMeco is going to end up being a coordinator somewhere next year, either on the Niners or wherever Saleh goes. That could be what happens. Or he could end up being Saleh's DC.
Or I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking the Niners elevate DeMeco and Saleh's DC is Rutenberg. Or
I was just thinking that I still think that Raheem Morris might be the guy that the Niners get.
I think he should be. He should be. And I think if Raheem Morris came here and was the guy, one, I don't think from Robert Saleh it's that steep of a drop. I think he's pretty close. I think he's that good. And two, I think Raheem Morris deserves to get another chance as a head coach in the NFL. And this would be the best place if he doesn't get it this year to come as a DC and with Kyle Shanahan and get a head coaching job again.
Let's stay with the defense. What's going on? So we've talked a lot about Jason Verrette. Hell of a player. They should re-sign him. But like a dark horse topic right now is Ahkello Witherspoon because his game was like almost just as good as Verrette's, and he's younger, he's bigger. What do you make of his little career resurgence?
So for me, it was more impressive. I expected that from Jason Verrette. I did not expect that from Ahkello Witherspoon 2 games in a row. I think when Ahkello Witherspoon, after the Miami game, that entire Brian Allen situation, we did like a 2-minute topic on it, and we both agreed he's done. Like, I don't see his confidence coming back. He's shaking. This was a bad look. They're about to deactivate him. All these things.
The defense's version of Pettis.
Right. But he's not. This is really special. This is really special. This tells you that if you're the 49ers, I say you re-sign Ahkello Witherspoon because you got to give him one more chance because you got to believe that there's something special in this guy where he was able to bounce back from that and come back for a guy whose biggest question is how mentally fragile he is. And number 2, I think what they're doing on defense now suits him a little more. Yeah. They're playing a bit more 2-man. And they're playing a little more press and letting him get hands on receivers and stuff. And that suits his game because he's maybe the most physically talented corner on the 49ers. I don't think he can play the press bail cover 3 that they were trying to groom him to play as the next Richard Sherman. I think he gets lost a little bit in zone coverage and finding the ball and all that.
It's not what he did at Colorado.
But he's really good at playing through the man man, and he's pretty sticky. And I think if they can play like this and play with this similar style, I think it can really be something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think really the question with him is, would he want to come back? I've heard some rumblings, basically from Leo Luna, who works for my site and is very close with Jamar Taylor. And I'm not trying to say Jamar Taylor's leaking information, but Leo is like adamant, like he's not going back to the Niners. It's not going to happen. And it's not that the Niners don't want him. So maybe he's like, thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to go back on the field. It's a mutual separation now. That'd be too bad. He might want to follow Robert Saleh, or maybe he really wants a new start somewhere else. I can't speculate.
I think he deserves it.
Yeah, well, they should send him like a fruit basket, like an edible arrangement, and be like, Akello, we're sorry. Hang around. We'd like to keep you.
And then the other thing that's been impressive is the tackling. Have you ever seen Akello Witherspoon just throw his body around like this?
How many tackles did he make in front of the sticks in this last game? 2, 3?
And how many were physical where he put his body and hit the guy? It wasn't he tackled. It's not that he tackled the guy. He hit the guy first.
Right. It's not like he was like hanging on for dear life.
Right.
He knocked the guy back.
Yeah. No. Akello, I've been very impressed. And, I've never actually been the biggest Akello Witherspoon fan, but this resurgence, I'm definitely like going to be cheering for Akello Witherspoon for a while, just because I just think that it requires a lot to be totally written off by everybody, deactivated by your team, and come back in 3 relatively meaningless games and play like this. Hats off to him.
Hats off to him with a caveat. If I were a team, I don't know if I would offer him more than a 1-year deal, Vish.
No, I wouldn't.
A 1-year deal, dude, I would love that. And I might even give him $3 million or $4 if I had the cap space, but a 3-year deal, I'd like him to. I think he's in this kind of contract year mode, and I think it's good for him. He's still a young man. He needs to develop this type of grind and mentality and keep it going for a long period of time. Like 2 games at the end of the year isn't enough for me to offer him a multi-year deal.
Right. And even for the Niners, too, because we've seen 2 to 3 game spurts from Akello Witherspoon before. But I think it is worth looking at because he did bounce back and because he is talented. And talented people always deserve second chances. And Akello Witherspoon does still have the talent to be a top-flight NFL corner. Not many 6'2", 195 guys move with the level of fluidity that he moves with.
He's bigger than that. He's a really tall dude. He's at least 6'3", and I really like him. He's always been really nice. He knows he takes a lot of criticism. He knows who he takes it from, and he's very mature and doesn't hold it against you and polite. And it's clear that he has really nice parents, and I really like him. I hope his
I thought even his post-game interview was just pure class. It was humble. It was down to earth. It was friendly. It was kind. I mean, this is a guy who been written off by the media, written off by the team, hasn't really talked to anybody in time, and he didn't come out there and give him a still here and anything like that.
Well, remember what Pettis said in training camp? Like he had this whole thing he wanted to say, and it's like
he was going to save it, and now we're never going to be able to hear it. I'm so sad about
Kelly
that.
was basically like, you know what? That's water under the bridge. I'm focused on my craft. I'm blessed to be here. Let's go. And I thought, like, wow, that's
hard. Yeah, it was
what a mature guy.
Yeah,
he's probably 24. I would imagine he's still pretty young. I don't know how old he is, but he's probably pretty young still. Anyway, and he's also from Sacramento. So shout out a local kid, Ross Dwelly, also from Sacramento. People don't remember this. I got a bonus topic. It's all anyone's talking about in the comment section. And I know what you're going to say. You know what I'm going to say, but let's give it 3 minutes. Should the 49ers sign Dwayne Haskins?
No,
absolutely not. Can you tell the people
he's not a professional. He's not a professional. And, I was going back. And so one thing that's interesting, the Giants didn't take Dwayne Haskins. Dave Gettleman's first comments when they picked Daniel Jones was, I saw him in the Senior Bowl, and this was a professional quarterback. He said it in his little Bostonian mafia boss accent. This is a professional quarterback. That's what he said. This is a professional quarterback.
That was good.
So now when you see him say this is a professional quarterback, when you see Dwayne Haskins, you see his total lack of professionalism with his time in the NFL. You see him given chances that he throws away by risking his team with COVID and then going and playing awfully, and just questions about his work ethic that people were putting out his rookie year. Like first, he's the last guy in, first guy out type stuff was stuff being reported in his rookie year. When you see stuff like that, maybe Dave Gettleman was saying Daniel Jones is a professional and Dwayne Haskins isn't. I don't know. But that's
to me, when people break down quarterbacks on Twitter, no one talks about this stuff. But this is the stuff that makes or breaks quarterbacks in the NFL. They're all talented. If you're drafted in the first round, you got a cannon. This is the stuff. And it's like also another thing. If a guy like this, Dwayne Haskins, who's so unprofessional and does this kind of stuff in his off time, could put up 50 touchdowns at Ohio State, doesn't that kind of put Ohio State passing statistics in perspective? I mean, anyone could do it. Any athlete could do it there.
Right. And the worst one, someone brought up the selfies. The worst one was his first win as a rookie when he didn't come in for victory formation because he was busy taking a selfie with a fan. Like, the thing is, it's hard. I get it. You're talking about someone my age or a tad 1 year older than me having to all of a sudden just stop being a kid and be an adult and a professional. And it's impossible to do. Like, I couldn't just walk into the NFL locker room and just stop being a kid.
You do a lot better than Dwayne Haskins. Let's just stop being modest, dude. Are you kidding? This guy. I guarantee you wouldn't end up in the strip club with the maskless. You would at least have a mask on. You would be following the proper protocols.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. But not just for Dwayne Haskins, but for any quarterback, it's hard. But unfortunately, that's the reality of Dwayne Haskins' job. And it's his job requirement, and he did not meet the requirement. I think that the 49ers should not touch him, because the one thing that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have always brought in, it's smart, professional, hardworking, blue-collar, gritty type players. And that's why the Dante Pettis pick, to my eye, like, Dante Pettis is really smart. He must be hardworking and all of that, but he never struck me as a blue-collar football grinder. I think you were the one that really was asking that question. And so that's where I think he's the only pick that hasn't made sense from that standpoint. But for the most part, like, look at Fred Warner. Like, how many guys at 23 years old are as professional, as well-spoken, as smart, as study as much as Fred Warner? Not many in the NFL, and those are the kind of guys they've always drafted. Those are the kind of players they like, and that's why Dwayne Haskins is a big no-no.
It's interesting you mentioned the blue-collar hard worker. That's Jimmy, not a rich kid growing up. You know who it isn't? Josh Rosen. And it's kind of interesting that he's on the team, because it's really what they're not looking for. And I think the rest of the league's also like, dude, you don't fit. So I do not think Rosen's not going to be.
If I'm the rest of the league, I'm intrigued, because if there's one offense in the modern NFL that Josh Rosen's skill set can work in, it's this one. And Josh Rosen is still talented, and he's still a very smart guy, and he does do he did have a lot of talent when he came out.
Throw. I mean, I think his arm is every bit as good as Jared Goff's.
Oh, I think he's just a better thrower than Goff. I think he's really good thrower. Of a thrower.
Yeah. I mean, seriously.
And better mover in the pocket.
Explain to me what it is. I mean, it's not just that he's Jewish. It's not that. I don't think they care. He's not even that Jewish. He's no bar mitzvah.
I remember when he got cut. So what I remember reading, like, I really enjoy reading. So my passion before used to be books. Now it's just reading random sports articles. Yes. I remember reading just a random report in theory that he used to talk about when he was in Arizona about going back to UCLA, getting his degree in like astrophysics and all of that. And, those types of things are cool, right?
Andrew Luck say stuff like that. He was going to go back to Stanford and get his degree in computer science or whatever.
But I think the delivery is different from Andrew Luck going, hey, I want to really work on my game. Ha, ha, ha. I have my Motorola cell phone. And then you have Josh Rosen, who's a little more, he speaks differently. He speaks a little more confident. He doesn't speak like someone. Right. He speaks a bit more convicted. He asks questions that Andrew Luck feels more like, okay, if you ask me to do it, I'll do it kind of thing. So it's just a little bit where Josh Rosen's different from the normal.
So it's like he has Aaron Rodgers' personality without Aaron Rodgers' game.
Right.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah. Right. And then I just think his game isn't a fit for the modern NFL unless he's playing in this offense, because he struggles to move. And he's not comfortable moving and stuff. He's a in-platform pocket moving quarterback, and this is the only offense that can have him do that. And
if you go back and watch him or look at what he did at UCLA, I watched a lot of him at UCLA because I watched that school.
He's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he had the arm there too, but again, like, he was under pressure a lot. He didn't deal with pressure very well. He didn't complete a high percentage of his passes.
He got beat to a pulp in UCLA.
He really got beat up at UCLA. He didn't have a great college career. It's never like he was great and his game didn't translate. He was always kind of hype. He was the top dude coming out of high school, and he wanted to go to Stanford. David Shaw said, no, we're pulling our contract with our scholarship offer, which is just amazing. I mean, that was the red flag to start with. I don't know what he could have possibly done on the recruiting trip. I mean, what did he do? Anyway, it's because he's Jewish.
He seems way too smart and
what did you do?
And well-spoken to pull a Dwayne Haskins. So he must have said something that rubbed David Shaw the wrong way. Yeah. Maybe he doesn't realize he's saying something that will rub someone the wrong way while he says it. I don't know.
He must be the ultimate diva know-it-all, is what I'm gathering. He just must think that he's the God's gift of football. And coach is like, dude, you're going to have to become much more coachable. Do you want to talk about CJ Beathard at all? I mean, let's give him some props.
That was awesome for CJ Beathard. That was really awesome. He's just a guy that, I think most people have written off. Most people are just like, why has Kyle Shanahan kept this guy on the team for so long? But, that was really cool. He played well. He did his job. He didn't turn the ball over. And, he's gone through so much in the last 3 years, 2 years and 3 years. And I think people have emphasized it a lot. It's not just the family stuff. I thought what happened to him as a rookie was really hard, where he had to come in and play games because Brian Hoyer was shot after 4 games, 5 games. I think Brian Hoyer was looking at his life and it was just flashing before his eyes like, wow,
I'm getting the Nick Mullins treatment. He was taking like 10, 11 hits a game, and most guys can't do it.
It was worse, right? Because he didn't even have a Trent Williams. They had a Philly game where they played the Super Bowl Philly team with Eric Magnuson and Zane Beadles, and he got beaten
at tackle, right? Yeah, it was
right. And every game, they didn't even there was a while that they didn't even have like a real backup. And so every game would feel like CJ Beathard is just getting himself up, and he just looked like a guy that was laboring through. And I don't believe he could have had full grasp of the offense at that point. I mean, he's a rookie that they drafted in the 3rd round, and they were probably not prepping him to start a game in 2017. So what he
Kittle
went through that
yet. It was a bad team. Yeah, it was a bad team.
It was horrible. And he went through that, and he went through all of that. And then what he had to go through in 2019 with his family stuff, for him to bounce back, get a win. And now
also the humiliation along. It wasn't just that he failed; he was humiliated, and I probably helped with that a little bit in retrospect,
just a little bit.
But that's in the past, and we're looking forward. So he did a great job dealing with all of that, and now all of a sudden he comes in and he's like the veteran. I was like, and older than these guys,
right? And the way he played and all of that, it really doesn't mean that much in the long term. He's still CJ Beathard. But, for him to go out on top, hopefully he plays good against Seattle too, because I think he's going to get a job somewhere else, or maybe even a backup job back here now that Nick Mullins could be gone. You don't think so?
But I don't. But we'll see. Hey, I hope he does. I'm not rooting against him. I'm not rooting against him.
Yeah. I just think because he knows the Kyle Shanahan system, I think that he has a good chance of getting another chance somewhere. But because of that, I just look at him and I say, well, congratulations. That's really awesome. And I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, because, I mean, for a guy who may not have the longest NFL career, there's not really much he can point to his kids or his grandkids and be like, well, this one day I had it. He beat the Giants that one day, and that would have been it. He had that nice throw to Goodwin. It was a beautiful throw. But this win, I mean, there weren't any jaw-dropping throws, but it was just a very mature win. He did it. He beat a team that was going to have a winning record, was playing for the playoffs. He can be proud of this.
He beat Kyler Murray.
He beat Kyler freaking Murray. He should be proud of this the way that Nick Mullins should be proud of beating Russell Wilson in 2018 and beating the Rams this year. It's a big deal. It's a division opponent. Good for you, too. They can't take that away from you ever. Great. So, unless you got anything else you want to say, we can move on to Nick Mullins. They haven't announced what the deal is. Kyle's going to talk in a couple hours. He may explain, but I don't know. He said one way or another it's going to be a long rehab. What do you think? What are your thoughts on Nick?
I feel bad for him. Elbow injuries are tough, and if you're a quarterback that didn't have a very strong arm to begin with, I can't imagine what your arm's going to be after an elbow injury. I hope it's not Tommy John, just because you look at Ben Roethlisberger. He was throwing rocket launchers before Tommy John. And now after Tommy John, his arm is not the same. The ball floats a bit more. I mean, he's still Ben Roethlisberger to an extent, and he played better against Indianapolis, but he's not the same player he was. And he looks like a guy that his career is maybe done, if not this year, the year after that. And so I feel bad for Nick Mullins that way, because you can see, for all the criticism he's taken this season and stuff, he's a guy that you can see football means a lot to. And it's tough to watch someone who cares so much about something be likely unable to do that because of circumstance and something like injury. It's tough. And I feel bad for him. That's all. I just really feel bad for him.
I mean, the fact that he's in the position he's in, that he made it that far, is a testament to his will. I mean, he basically willed it. It's not like he had all these gifts. He just really meant a lot to him. He studied, he got in the right position, and he got opportunities and did well. And now it's like, I don't know, it's like Cinderella, he was in the basement. He was doing nothing. His life stunk. And then all of a sudden he's at the ball and it almost worked out. And then right before midnight, oh, your elbow fell off. Sorry. Good luck. I hope you enjoyed your little fairy tale. And now it's over. Ooh, that stinks. But I hope his elbow's better. All I know is in baseball, a lot of these pitchers come back with even more arm strength. But it doesn't work that way in football, huh?
I don't know. I don't know much about it. I'm not a big baseball guy. And the biggest example would be for me right now, Ben Roethlisberger. Mm-hmm. And if you're a guy like Nick Mullins, like,
yeah, well, good luck, Nick.
The other thing for him is who's going to want him. If the 49ers don't re-sign him, he's kind of jobless. So we'll see.
Well, I think he'll be a coach as soon as his career's over.
You think he'll go into coaching?
Oh, yeah. I think he's the kind of guy who can't stay away from football. I think it means that much to him. And they've already said that he's going to be a coach. I've asked Kyle Shanahan that question in the press conference. He said, oh, yeah. But I don't think his career is necessarily over. I'm not going to write him off like that. He's going to take a while. I don't know if he's going to play next year. I actually don't.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Joe Burrow going to have the long road back. We'll see who makes it back first. You know who my money's on. All right, let's keep
Joey B's walking, so he's already got a head start.
I think Mullins can walk. I don't know. Let's talk about Richard Sherman. A lot of people are wondering, like, what's going on there? Is he really hurt? Did the Niners just shut him down because he stinks? What do you think is going on with Richard Sherman?
Yeah, so I have a totally different take on the Richard Sherman situation than the one I've seen circulating. I think that people thought in the Cowboys game that he quit. I didn't think that Richard Sherman quit or was making business decisions. I saw a player that was injured. I saw a player that's been dealing with leg injuries, and he's playing through it because he's Richard Sherman and he just wants to compete. To me, I feel like you can't ever question with Richard Sherman business decisions just because the guy has played through so many big time injuries and he just puts himself on the field. Like last year, what was his injury last year? He missed one game. And I remember it was pretty serious. It was like a pulled quad, or it was not, it wasn't a routine 1 week injury, and he came back. And I think Richard Sherman's future in the NFL is to go with Robert Saleh. I think the one thing that Richard Sherman adds the reason he's still very good is because Richard Sherman is one of the smartest people in the NFL. And the most important thing with being smart is that people have to know you're smart. Like, you can be a smart guy, but if nobody knows you're smart, they're not going to respect you. Everybody knows Richard Sherman is smart too, so they respect the hell out of him. And I think because of that, he's instant credibility to any coach, because if Richard Sherman respects you, who am I not to respect you? That's Richard Sherman. So I think if you're Robert Saleh, he would be really good that way. And then the other thing is, he's been so good to the 49ers in terms of mentoring these young players, teaching them how to be professionals, how you speak to the media. I mean, how much has he done in terms of that? Not even the team does as much. Like, how much has he done mentioning guys like Jimmy Ward in every press conference and Jaquiski Tartt in every press conference last year? Not even the team is putting out a lot of highlights.
Saleh, these guys he's pumped up.
Right, Jimmy Ward. And he does all those things. Right, he's a pro's pro. He's a Hall of Famer, and I think he's got 2 years just being that guy. And he'll still intercept the ball and do a couple of things because he's still Richard Sherman, one of the smartest defensive backs ever. And then I think he can go into broadcasting or being a executive, whatever he wants to be, he can do it.
One thing I'm going to say with Richard Sherman, I'm not going to say that his career is done. If he is injured, as you suspect, then he could play better next year, but he can't cover man-to-man anymore. So
no.
He needs to go to a team with a dominant pass rush, because if you're going to play zone all the time, great, but you got to have one hell of a pass rush because you ain't winning with coverage. It'll be complementary to your pass rush. And I don't know where that is for Richard Sherman, but that's what he's looking for, right?
Maybe he does what Eric Davis says, and he plays safety his last 2 years. I don't think he could play single high, but I think he could play in a split safety defense. And
I'm sure he could play single high in certain situations if you pick and choose your spots, just because he's so smart and he would be able to read things. But if he get it wrong, he'd be in big trouble.
They've done it this year, right? They've had him play as a robber safety with him and Tarvarius Moore play as a robber safety, and Jimmy Ward, you go take someone in man. They did do that this year. So I think that there's still a role for him. I feel bad because I'm a big Richard Sherman fan just because I love when he roasts people. I think it's absolutely hilarious. And
I'm glad he hasn't roasted me yet.
He's been good to all.
Block me on Twitter. That's nice. I don't think I could take him roasting me. He's got like 2 million followers on Twitter. I just think I would crumble. I think I'd cry if you tried. I can take it from Armstead, but not from Richard Sherman. He's just too good. He would get you where it hurts.
Yeah, because Richard Sherman would call you a bunch of names, but he wouldn't call you just those names. He would say it in a very eloquent way where instead of calling you arrogant, he would call you pompous.
Yeah, and he'd say it in a way that I'd probably agree with him. I'd be like, oh, man, he's right. I am those things. And then I'd hate myself. Oh, Richard, if you're watching, please be nice. Okay, this is what we wanted to talk about. This is how I build the show. All offseason, we've been talking Niners need the same needs as last year. Quarterback, interior offensive line, corner. 3 things. Vish, is that the only issue with the Niners right now?
No. For me, safety and edge rusher needs to.
That's the irony. We've been thinking about corner all this time, but Jason Verrette stepped up. Akello Witherspoon stepping up. Emmanuel Mosley's certainly solid. And now it's like, well, what's the plan?
Corner is still a need.
It's still a need, but at least you have guys there that have shown you something. What's the plan if D Ford can't come back?
Right.
Because he can't.
Right. And you can't, and Edge, right? Big Golden Nuggets are our guy. He's always here in the streams. He's always keeping us in check, and he got it exactly.
Yeah.
Edge rusher is a need because the thing with D Ford, and this is what I always say when the D Ford conversation comes up, if we're ranking the 10 best players on the 49ers when they're healthy, guess what? D Ford is one of them. He is that good. And there's they don't make the Super Bowl last year without D Ford. He makes such an impact. He's, such a good player. So you can't just let D Ford walk and say, we're going to try and do the Kerry Hyder route. And again, and Nick Bosa is going to make it all better because Nick Bosa is also coming back from a series.
That's the point. It's not just that they need to replace D Ford. It's that Nick Bosa could be on a pitch count early on.
Right. You can't put so much pressure on Nick Bosa because Nick Bosa is one of those players that this franchise needs for 10 years. And they can't just wear his body coming from an injury. So I do think edge rusher is a big need. And that's where this quarterback conversation that's why I keep going veteran quarterback. Because to me, the first pick, if you're going to draft in the first round, the 49ers either have to take a cornerback or an edge rusher. To me, you got to go a premium position. Taking a tight end or taking an offensive guard is not the way you build your team. You got to take a premium position, edge rusher or cornerback. So that means that you got to somehow find a way to get a veteran quarterback, because if you're stuck getting a quarterback in the first round, right? They have first round, second round, then they have fourth round, 2 5s, 2 6, 2 7s. You're not going to be able to get unless you just find 5 Dre Greenlaws and 4 DJ Jones, you're not going to be able to get a safety who can compete with Tarvarius Moore for the starting job from day one if Tart walks. You're not going to be able to get a corner who can compete for the other side of Verrette with Mosley. And also you need a corner who can back up, K'Wan Williams, because his body's also a little bit of teetering because he seems to have he's had a lot of lower leg injuries in the last 3 years, and Jamar Taylor just tore his ACL. So you need that. You need an edge rusher to complement Nick Bosa and take the pressure off of him. And then you also need a center because Big West has just suffered 2 injuries. So they have a lot of positional needs that way.
Brunskill should be the right guard, right?
Right. I mean, hopefully. Or if you look at him as a long-term center, you need some sort of competition from McKivitz, right? McKivitz and Moore can't just walk into camp handed jobs because they're not good enough to be given that.
And you got to face Aaron Donald twice a year.
Right.
To me, if Aaron Donald's in your position, then guard becomes damn near a premium position because that guy's getting isolated on Aaron Donald a good amount of times in big games. So you got to have something at least better than Colt McKivitz. And
everybody says running back is not a need, but from what I've seen the last 3 years is that it's not. It was Matt Breida first. It's been Tevin Coleman's body is totally worn out. Raheem Mostert this year, and even Jeff Wilson, he's played awesome when he's played, but his body has also gotten banged up. These guys get banged up because
you need a lot of them. You need a lot of them.
So they can't just right. And Hasty, how many running backs did they lose this year? So it's not just Mostert that's giving them. They don't have a bell cow type guy, which means they need 3. Like McKinnon's the guy that's gotten the least carries. That's why he stayed the healthiest. But if you need 3 guys that you can work in unison and kind of filter them in and out based on this guy's a little healthier than this guy, so we're going to ride him this week. This guy's a little healthier than that guy, so we're going to ride him this week because they don't have a Dalvin Cook who can carry your offense for 16 games, a Derrick Henry per se. So I do think that running backs is not a position that they can just totally leave out. I do think it once again needs to be addressed, whether it's a late round pick or undrafted guy. You need more bodies in here.
So now, to me, I don't think you ever really need to go first round at running back, but you need to have at least 2 or 3 undrafted guys you sign a year. And if there's someone you like in round 6 or round 7, fine.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. It's not an investment, but when you have 9 picks, right? Hopefully Saleh gives them a 3rd rounder. That would be huge. Maybe get a 5th from Emmanuel Sanders, something like that.
All I'm saying is don't reprise the Joe Williams mistake. Don't reprise the Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon mistake. If you're finding these guys after in the undrafted free agent pool consistently, don't force it in round 3. Don't force it in round 4. Don't give some guy a $40 million contract because you like him. Just stick with what's working. It works. Even Savon Ahmed is good. He's just on another team. Hasty I liked until he got hurt. It works.
Hasty's good.
I like Hasty. Their top 3 next year is good. Bring in 3 more undrafted guys. Keep them on the practice squad and keep it going. I like Austin Walker.
Right, because he runs really hard. Because the thing with Hasty too is when you're 5'7" and you run the violent style that he runs with, like you're asking for big time collisions, and it's really tough in the NFL to survive a lot of those. And Jeff Wilson runs with a ton of aggression, and he's not built like Derrick Henry or a prime Adrian Peterson. So
he runs like Derrick Henry, but he isn't Derrick Henry, so you know what's going to happen. Yes,
right. So and Mostert also runs really hard for a guy with his size and stature. So that also leads to injuries. And if Mostert is not 100%, you're compromising his number 1 asset, which is his speed. So I think that running back is a position that can't just be neglected. And that's where all these decisions this offseason is going to be interesting, because after Trent Williams and Fred Warner, you're going to have to decide which positions can we address in the draft and which positions do we have to re-sign. Is it Juszczyk, Tart? Are those the guys that we need to bring back?
Is it Verrette?
Is it Verrette? Is it who do we bring back? Because you have 30 different guys you have to make a decision on, and those 30 guys are going to make or break whatever you do at quarterback.
All right, we got a question from Pastry Cigar. Good work this season. Break this idea down, guys. Niners and Patriots, Debo and Jimmy for Edelman, Stidham, and the Pats' 1st rounder in the upcoming draft. Does this make sense for either team?
No.
No.
First of all, the Niners can't trade Debo.
You can't trade Debo. No.
Debo's untradeable to me. And Edelman is, you want to talk about someone that's broken down, body injured. Like he has the yips sometimes. He drops so many passes now because he's taken so many hits. He's not it. And then bringing Stidham into our system, like it's going to take a while for Jarrett Stidham to be ready to play. The 1st rounder is the only premium in that. And the Patriots are getting a starting quarterback and a number 1 wide receiver. So I would not do this.
Now, let's stick with the general concept, because Pastry Cigar was so generous enough to donate. I don't think this trade is going to happen, but a trade that could happen, the Niners and Patriots could trade this offseason, and it could involve Jimmy Garoppolo. Do you think that could happen? The Patriots have cap space. They think highly of Jimmy Garoppolo. It may be in their interest to, I don't know, give up a 4th round pick and just bring him in as opposed to waiting. But I don't know. What do you think? They think they'll just wait till he gets cut? He's going to wait.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. Why not? The Niners have not done themselves any favors by every week since Jimmy Garoppolo has gotten injured. A different NFL insider has said 40% chance Jimmy Garoppolo remains with the 49ers. 20% chance. Or when he first got injured, there were like 15 different people, including like Peter King, saying he's played his last snap with the 49ers. Now everybody's walking it back and saying 20% chance, 30% chance. But after a while, it's not like you're going to sit here and say, dang, because who's going to take Jimmy Garoppolo's $27 million contract when you know that when push comes to shove, they'll just cut him and you can get him at 10 to 15 million, which is a good price for the level of player he is. And if you get him healthy, you have a solid starting quarterback.
Here's what I would do if I'm John Lynch. I want to trade him. I don't want to cut him.
Yeah, so I agree.
Maybe trading is going to take a little lying and bluffing. So what I would need to do, I know in New England's going to try to wait and beat me and just sign the guy. So what I would have to tell him is, look, if you wait, I got a team right here. I can't tell you what team, but I got a team that's willing to trade me a 4th-round pick. And, it's not much, but I'm willing to take the 4th and send them to wherever I'm going to send them, and you'll never get them. And your stinginess cost you the quarterback. That's what
I disagree, because they were willing to walk into this season with Jarrett Stidham as their starter before the Cam Newton opportunity presented itself, right? That's what all the Patriots insiders said. So Belichick is not going to play this game with John Lynch. He'll just say, fine, we're going with Stidham, and he'll force Lynch's hand and pick up Garoppolo too. So I don't think, and I do think there'll be more suitors for
Jameis. There's no team in the league that would offer the Niners a 5th for Garoppolo in that contract. Jacksonville would. Well, no, Jacksonville wouldn't do it. Any team? I don't know who has cap space. No team. Huh?
Would it be the Ryan Tannehill situation? I think he was due $18 million when he went from Miami to Tennessee, but Tennessee only paid $6 million of his $18 million. And at that point, I think Tennessee at that point itself was pretty confident that he was going to replace Mariota at some time. They were waiting for it to happen because Mariota struggles to throw the ball. And Tannehill was a good player in Miami. Like, people just totally forget it, but he was a good player in Miami. So
the problem here is that there's not a lot of prorated bonus in Garoppolo's contract, so he's expensive to any team he goes to.
Right, and the Niners are dropping him primarily. The reason number one is cap. So they're not going to say, hey, you give us a 5th, then we'll pay half this contract for you. No, that's not happening.
No. Oof. All right. Interesting. Kitchen said center from Alabama. I don't know who it is, but I know he's great, and that's why I don't like Mac Jones. But
no, not in the first round.
Not in the first round.
Not in the first round. It's not a premium position.
No, it's not. Okay. Last question, and then we can take some more questions if you'd like. Although we're running up against time.
No, I'm good for.
Okay, this is sort of neither here nor there, but Cliff Kingsbury, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think he's a very good coach. I think that his offense doesn't have a lot in it, and I think he's getting bailed out by the fact that he has Kyler Murray. And, the thing about yesterday's game is that if it wasn't for Kyler Murray's ability to take plays that had absolutely nothing in them and run for 25, 30 yards, the Cardinals get smoked in that game. And he had no answer for his short passing game. The Niners were being physical with their receivers, jumping on the shorter routes and stuff, and he really had no answer. His run game isn't that creative. He's just lucky that he drafted Kyler Murray. And, Kyler Murray has certain things that he still needs to grow with, and he also has some issues and some room for growth. But the thing with him is that he's a physical marvel. There's not many players with his level of arm strength, ability to throw off platform, accuracy, quick release, speed, quickness, agility. When you put all those things together, he basically carries their offense and often bails Cliff out of bad play calls by turning them into positive gains.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm going to take it a little bit further because you're always measured, which I appreciate. But forget that, dude. If I owned Arizona, I would fire him. I think I've seen enough. I do not expect Arizona to be much better next year, and I think he's the problem.
I think there is something to that. You have only 3 more years of rookie contract Kyler Murray. Don't waste one more with Cliff Kingsbury. Bring in someone that's going to utilize and maximize him where he's not bailing out play calls, he's maximizing play calls.
I think it's fair to say that where Arizona was in 2019 with Josh Rosen at quarterback, firing Steve Wilkes, maybe Cliff Kingsbury was the best they could do. And, if his legacy in Arizona was telling them, hey, draft Kyler Murray, then good for you. That's what you did. You served your purpose. But now they're beyond you. If they fire this dude now, a lot of coaches would want to coach Kyler Murray. They can do so much better than Cliff Kingsbury, and they should. And I just wonder if they know that. But I'm sure they watch the show. So if you're watching, fire this guy. Move on. You can see where this is going. Move on right now. You would have your pick. That'd be a good job. I would love to coach Kyler Murray. Hell of a player.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and a defense with a lot of very good players.
Yeah.
Like right, Rudy Baker, Chandler Jones.
Yeah, I mean, yes. And there's more. Carlos Rodriguez says, who do the Niners need to let go besides Jimmy? That's a good question.
Yeah, I think the one guy that nobody talks about, but I don't think he's reliable. I don't think he's a guy they need to bring in. That's Weston Richburg. And everybody says D Ford easily, but to me, the thing with Weston Richburg, it's not that he isn't a very good player when he's healthy, but he's had 2 injuries where I totally question if he can come back. I don't even know how they were just putting out that he was going to come back this year from the patella. And Javi Vega, who everybody knows, he made a really good point. Him and Jason Aponte both made a very good point to me. They said the last guy to come back from a patella was Victor Cruz in the NFL. And that injury basically ended his career. And he was a receiver who isn't bending down every single play and has to anchor, which Weston Richburg has to do every single snap he takes in the NFL. And I just don't think he's somebody they can rely on.
Yeah. So hold on. What's the list of people who's Weston Richburg, D Ford, Jimmy Garoppolo, Richard Sherman?
Those are the big.
He's a free agent.
He's a free agent, but those are the 3 big contracts you can say probably because they already moved Quan.
Again, Jerick McKinnon, a free agent, but he's not coming back.
No.
Tevin Coleman, free agent.
I
don't think he's coming back, although maybe if it's real cheap, they seem to like him. So maybe
he is excellent in pass pro, something the Niners backs have really struggled with. He is phenomenal at that. But I think Tevin Coleman also
he's a gunner.
He has been doing a good job as a gunner, but I think he's a guy we haven't talked about the wear and tear getting to him. He's had a lot of lower leg and type injuries too. I mean, last year his ankle wasn't the same. I remember the year before because he was on my fantasy team. He was always questionable in Atlanta. So he's also had a lot, and he runs high, right?
He does.
He runs straight up, right? So he's going to take more hits to his legs. And so he's another guy where I look at it and say, how much football does he have left? Because we could be sitting here critiquing Tevin Coleman's run game, but the guy just might not be healthy anymore.
I don't know if you remember, but when he came out of Indiana,
he was fast.
The pro comp for him was Darren McFadden because of the speed and the upright running style and the skinny legs. And Darren McFadden was pretty good when he was young. But again, you take enough hits on those tiny little legs, you know what's going to happen. You're going to lose your speed. And maybe that's what's going on with Tevin Coleman a little bit. He's not young. He might be almost 28. I don't know. So anyway, good question. I think those are the one. I can't think of anyone else. I mean, what about Robbie Gould, another free agent? They gotta see it one more. If he does it again next week, they gotta worry.
The thing with Robbie Gould is that the thing with kickers, right, is that you don't know if he's gonna make the kick when you're down 2 and you have a 48-yard field goal. With Robbie Gould, you have confidence that he's gonna hit that kick, which is why I think they'll play conservative and just keep him because they don't want to get into the kicker market because that's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah, because then you're just one step away from Cody Parkey on your team, and then what? That's true.
I mean, the Niners had to go through it with David Akers, right? And it's not like you have any good kickers just waiting in the market, right?
No, it's not like the corner market.
The competition that they brought in and they had him on the active roster was Billy Cundiff, who's most famous for blowing a playoff game for the Ravens when he pulled 38 or 37-yard field goal totally right. So you're not going to get better at kicker, which is why I think Robbie Gould will just be safe. Luca
has asked this question 35 times, so let's answer it. Luca asks, Grant and Vish, do you think that we could sign, we being the 49ers, T.Y. Hilton and sign him over the offseason?
No.
Absolutely.
One, I think to me, he feels like an Indianapolis lifer.
Yep.
2, I think his contract will still be like the type of contract Pierre Garçon got when he came from Washington to the 49ers. He's still a pretty solid player. And 3, what is he really going to be on this team? He's not going to be the number 1 receiver. He's not going to be the number 2 receiver. He's not going to be the number 3 pass option. He's not going to be maybe even the number 4 pass option. I think they can simulate that deep speed by getting Travis Benjamin and having him come back. Hopefully he's not opting out and they can bring him back. And all of a sudden they have a deep threat and a returner. It's
a run-first team. They're at their best when they run more than they pass. And to me, I like their receivers. I mean, Ayuk and Debo is a terrific 1-2 punch. And then Richie James as a number 3, he's not the best number 3 receiver in the league, but I think Niners quarterback's passer rating is like 115 when they target him. He's pretty good considering that the tight end is the number 1 receiver on the team. The backup tight end is good too. The fullback's a receiver. The running back's a receiver. They're fine with weapons. That's not an issue. What they need is to spend their money elsewhere.
And their
offensive
offense starts from the run game. They want to marry the run with the pass. And the run game is the way, like, it's not just the quarterback that they're protecting. They're also protecting their offensive line by being able to run the ball. So it's all going to start from the run game. So getting a guy like T.Y. Hilton to have him stretch the field on a couple different snaps every game and do things like that, I think you can approximate that for a lot cheaper with Travis Benjamin.
Oh, yeah, he's still on the team.
Yeah.
I forgot about Travis Benjamin. Did he get hurt or did he opt out?
He opted out.
Oh, yeah.
He'd be huge for them next year.
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about Travis Benjamin. Good call. Any other questions? I want Travis Etienne.
I do too.
He's really good, but you don't need to draft a running back with a top 50 pick. You don't, because you know he's going to get hurt.
I disagree here.
Okay.
I say, so this is my take on running backs. I say draft one, top 10, first round, top 50, draft one. Do not give him a second contract. He's going to come out. If he's that good, he's going to be ready day one to be a marquee contributor. Ezekiel Elliott was that. Todd Gurley was that. Just don't give him the second contract because his body's already going to wear and tear from the hits in college, the hits in high school, and the hits in the NFL. But from day one, he could elevate your team to a different level. Like, imagine if the Niners had picked Dalvin Cook instead of Reuben Foster. Now, maybe Dalvin Cook still tears his ACL, but when he's healthy, Dalvin Cook would have just transformed this offense where it didn't matter who the quarterback is. Just turn it around and hand it to Dalvin. It would be like Mike Shanahan with Terrell Davis. That's how it would be for Kyle. So I do think that a running back can be transformative, but I just don't think you give him the second contract because then he becomes overpaid and injured and not worth it.
And also, we just talked about all the needs the Niners have. Running back is not high on that list.
Mm-hmm.
You can always get better running backs and more running backs, and you can't have enough. But if they spend a top 50 pick on a running back this year, I think that would be questionable. Even if it is Travis Etienne, good player.
Also with Travis Etienne, are people saying top 40, top 30? I've seen him play. With his receiving skills, his route running ability, his violence, his speed, there's no way I don't think that guy passes. He's going to be I know Najee Harris is good, but I think when he runs a 40 and stuff at the combine, I don't think this guy's going to go in the second round.
Ooh. Are Etienne and Harris going to be first round picks?
That's what people say, but the projection now is totally different from the projection a month before the draft. But I don't understand like how this guy, people are saying top 40, top 50.
Harris is really good. I was watching him because I was scouting. I've been really scouting Kyle Trask, and I was watching that game between Alabama and Florida, and I was trying to scout Mac Jones as well. But all I kept saying is, geez, Najee Harris, my goodness. I don't think Florida really wants to tackle that guy. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a monster. He's a man.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be as good as Derrick Henry, but he looks kind of similar.
He's different. He's lighter on his feet.
He is lighter on his feet.
He has really natural hands. He catches the ball so well. They're both really good.
Yeah. Kid Thrax says mock draft from you and Vish. Let the Senior Bowl happen first, and then we will do mock drafts. That's a good idea. Don't worry.
Grant, I'm not a mock draft guy. I go through, like, I just try to look at draft prospects I write and I know I like and I hope for, and then I look at it. But the thing about me is that usually, even if I'm disappointed with who the Niners take, like I was disappointed when they picked Mike McGlinchey over Tremaine Edmonds, 5 minutes after the pick, I'll convince myself. I'll be like, hey, Mike McGlinchey's the guy. This is going to work. This is going to be great. His rookie season, I'll be like, all right, he's still the guy. This is going to work. This is going to be great. His second season, I'll be like, he's getting better. This is going to work. And then until I have to, I won't let it go just because I'm a fan.
That's where I wonder if we're at with Javon Kinlaw, because fans don't admit it until year 3. Year 1, it's like, come on, he's a rookie. What do you expect? He could improve. And then year 2 is like, he's still a second-year player. He did improve a little bit. He went from no production to a little production. Imagine what's going to happen year 3. And then year 3 happens, and it either happens or it doesn't. And then finally. So
the thing with Kinlaw's redeeming quality, and the reason I'm high on him, not just because I really liked him before the draft, is because he's a physical specimen. Like, he has the physical ability. There's nothing lacking with him physically where you can't say he won't improve for this reason. Like, Mike McGlinchey has a couple of flaws. Like, he has slow hands. He doesn't anchor. He has slow feet. He doesn't really anchor that well. So you know why he plays right tackle, even though he's really athletic and a good run blocker and really good puller and they can do a lot of different things with how athletic he is as a run blocker. In straight pass pro, he struggles because of that. With Kinlaw as a defensive tackle, when you look at him physically, stout against the run, violent hands, plays angry,
fast,
really
chases
strong.
the play. Yeah.
Right. Hustles, everything you say. Yeah. Well, coaching has to refine this guy because there's not a lacking thing talent-wise where you can say Siobhan is not going to make it, you know?
Yeah, and I think what Robert Saleh would say is, look, wait till we get our edge rushers back.
Mm-hmm.
Wait till quarterbacks are forced to step up in the pocket. Boom, there's your production. Right now, he's in a position where he not only has to beat the guy in front of him, but he has to get deep in the pocket because the quarterbacks can hang back. Because as good as Kerry Hyder is, it's not like people are afraid of him or he's getting back there so quick. What are you smiling at?
Someone said time for the weekly Matthew Stafford update.
Hold on. You got to donate for the weekly Matthew Stafford update. Before someone's going to beat you to that. Weston Jackson says, if we drop Jimmy, do you think drafting or signing would be better for us to get back to being a top seed in the end? Well, okay, here's your Matthew Stafford. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Matthew Stafford. Get Matthew Stafford. It's that simple. Because I just look at this roster and I say, if you miss out on a corner in the first round, if you miss out an edge rusher in the first round because you have to take a quarterback because of where they're going to draft, it's not going to be Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence. So that means he's not going to be a quarterback that everybody's going to be 100% on, where you can just start him day one and he'll just totally elevate your team if you have a couple extra holes because of that. I just think that's too much to handle. But I think if you get Matthew Stafford, whose contract is manageable, maybe he costs a couple of second-round picks, or something. If a couple of second-round picks, that would be a godsend. Oh, my God. A couple of second-round picks for Matthew Stafford. Oh, whew.
No, yeah. It wouldn't be that. First of all, I don't see why Detroit trades him, and we'll talk about that for a second.
Yeah,
but Matthew Stafford, you're trading your first-round pick this year and your first-round pick next year for starters.
I'd still do it, but yeah, I think that's the bottom line. I'm gonna keep saying it until someone tells me that I can't say it anymore. But I think the bottom line is that I don't think Detroit is going to move him because he's still the only redeeming quality about that franchise.
Right. So let's play it out. They're going to fire. They already fired their coach. They need to hire someone. And right now,
coach and GM.
Right. And right now, they're not the most. They're not the best job available. They're not as good as Jacksonville, which isn't officially available yet. They're not as good as the Chargers, which isn't officially available yet. They might not be as good as Houston because of Deshaun Watson. But they're right there.
Deshaun Watson is 26 and Matthew Stafford's 33.
But you could say they're the number 4 team and that they could get someone good. You trade Matthew Stafford, you're at the bottom. You're right there with the Jets, or maybe worse, because you got big contracts. You don't have a ton of cap space. And what's the plan there? I mean, you're like starting a very long rebuild. You're not
right. At least the Jets, you have cap space. You have a franchise left tackle in Becton, and you have the opportunity to draft your own quarterback.
Now you go to the bottom, and to me, you're hiring a coach who knows he's going to get fired in a few years. It's like, man, this situation's impossible. I'll take this job because kind of like when Dennis Allen got hired by the Raiders when they were trying to clear their cap. It's like, you know what? I'll take it. If this job stinks and I know I'm going to get fired, and I probably shouldn't take it, but I'm going to take it. I think that's where you're at. That's where you're at.
Yeah. And the thing with Stafford is that if you're any type of coach with any sort of self-belief and conviction, you can look at him as a quarterback and say, well, I can win like Jim Caldwell did 9 games, 2 years in a row with this roster and that quarterback. It's possible. But if he goes, you're looking at that roster, that franchise, that organization, who they paid, the mistakes Quinn and Patricia made, all the mistakes they made, whether it was Trey Flowers, Jamie Collins, all of those type guys. And you're just thinking, well, are they going to give me the full time because I have to tear this roster apart, suck for a couple years, and then we might be ready to go if the rebuild works.
Right, and you're going to get fired. That's the way it works in the NFL, and it's not really fair. What I would say is, from Saleh's perspective, I think he could probably do better than Detroit, but Detroit might work out for him. He could pitch it to them and be like, look, I'll bring Mike McDaniel. I'll bring the run game coordinator from San Francisco. You'll get a run game for the first time in San Francisco.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift looks good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to cost you anything. We got the running backs. We'll give you the scheme, and we'll finally have a balanced offense. And
Pro Bowl center, Frank Ragnow, Pro Bowl center.
So I think Saleh can look at that and be like, I can win with this. I can win with that. Don't trade Stafford. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
If the Niners can get Stafford, great. But they really going to have to sell Detroit on why that makes sense for them.
Desmond Trufant has played in this scheme, the Seattle scheme before. Jeff Okuda played cover 3 press bail with Jeff Hafley in college. I mean, yeah, 100%. It makes a ton of sense for Saleh. Now, if he was a nice guy, he would say, well, look, I'm going to come in here and rebuild it and send my buddy Kyle Matthew Stafford so that Vish Kumaran from Illinois can be extremely ecstatic that the 49ers are going to be excellent. But maybe he's not that kind of guy. Maybe I misjudged Saleh.
Well, I would hope that he is. He needs to scratch the people's back who scratched his. Thoughts on Jameis Winston as a bridge quarterback? Sean, we're going to get to you after. Thoughts on Jameis?
Yeah, So the thing with Jameis is that I'm always enamored because the thing with Jameis is that I think he's the only quarterback that doesn't get enough credit for his great plays. Like you take a Darnold, whose highlight reel of best plays are absolutely outstanding and stunning, and those are the only plays people focus on instead of the majority of the horrible plays, which are all Gase's fault. All Gase's fault. He never makes those bad plays, but only the good ones are him. But with Jameis, right, go back and watch Jameis's 30-30 season. Yeah, a lot of those interceptions are horrible. Those fumbles are horrible. But there's also like 10 throws every game where you go, wow, top 10 quarterback. That throw, just isolate that throw. It was really special. The thing with him is that he's an absolute sleazeball. Like the Uber driver story is so disconcerting. It's messed up. And I think that personality and all of that is where I can't like endorse and be excited about Jameis Winston as being the quarterback for my team, though I still think his talent is legit.
Also, as being a member of the Bay Area Media Press Corps, I know us. We won't let it slide. If they sign him, that's the story. The Niners signed backup quarterback who did this, and that's the story in the Chronicle. It's the story in the Merc. They just won't let it slide. It's a very left-wing, moralistic society out here, and that's the story every time he gets mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't think they want it.
Maybe Jameis has grown. Maybe he's gotten better, but unfortunately, that story is ugly. It's ugly.
Okay. And it's not like you're bringing in a guy who has ugly baggage, but he's a baller. It's like, well, he might be a starter, but evidence suggests he might just be a backup, and he has baggage. Not for me. Not for me. I think you can do better. I'd rather get a guy like Andy Dalton, who's probably at the same price point.
I like Andy Dalton as a possible bridge QB. I think he's produced at his best at a similar level to what Jimmy did last year, what Goff has done his entire career. So tier 3 quarterback, somewhere between 18 and 22. And if you can get that player for $8 million, $10 million, nobody has a problem with that player at $8 million, $10 million. You have a problem when you're paying Jared Goff 31. That's where you have a problem.
Exactly. Absolutely. Sean says, thanks for using my pass rusher take. Happy New Year. Maybe Carr. What pass rushers are available free agency or draft second round? Aldon Smith. Okay, there's 2 questions there. Do you want to do pass rusher first or Derek Carr? I think they're both good questions.
So one, I haven't really gotten into the pass rushers in this draft. When I get into it, I'll say who I think is good. Aldon Smith at possibility, but he just had a feel-good story in Dallas. I feel like it's kind of tailor-made, especially if Jim Tomsula remains there. Why would he change
tackle?
Yeah.
He's playing D tackle, guys. He's no longer an edge rusher. So I'm just saying.
Why change? I think he's listed at like 286 or 287. He's put on a ton of weight.
Yeah, he's different.
He's yoked. He's still a very good player for the fact that he missed 5 years of football and all of that. But no, I don't think so. And then maybe Carr. So Carr is interesting, right? I think Carr is really talented. And I think what's going to happen with Carr is I think Gruden is just going to keep holding on to Carr, but keep flirting with other people because he knows ultimately he's not going to be able to do better than Carr, but because he's John Gruden and that's just his personality, he's just going to ruin it with Carr while not having a contingency or a different plan at quarterback.
That's fair. I think actually there's a chance he gets rid of Carr. I think so. And I could be wrong. I just feel like the way the offense looked when Mariota was in there, they want to do that. Now, I don't think they think Mariota's a starter. He's probably not a starter. He's probably a backup. But I think they want the offense to look like that, not like what it looks like with Derek Carr. I think there's a reason they were interested in Kyler Murray. I think I could be wrong, but I think John Gruden wants to evolve in that direction.
Possible.
So Derek Carr doesn't give him that. Justin Fields would. Trey Lance would. And I think if the Raiders would be a dark horse team to get a quarterback like that, to get Trey Lance in the teens. And
that's interesting.
I think they would. And in that case, to me, Derek Carr is a terrific fit on the 49ers because imagine him throwing downfield to George Kittle.
Yeah, Derek Carr is really good. I mean, we're watching him do it with Darren Waller. Derek Carr is good. Derek Carr has had a top 15 quarterback type season this year. Yeah. He's just never lived up to the pre-broken leg type aspirations that people had for him. And, maybe he never lives up, but he's still a really solid and very good quarterback who plays 16 games almost every year and does his job. And then the
problem is his personality. There is something with his personality.
Right.
He's not full on Kirk Cousins, but I don't think that his teammates are super juiced about Derek Carr.
Yeah, the Hard Knocks was kind of weird. The interactions with him. Also, he was kind of like the kid. He was kind of like, the coach, the kid on your team that always sits next to the coach. And when the coach says something when you're sitting on the bench, he'll go, "Yeah, coach, you're absolutely right," and try to suck up to the coach. That's what it felt like. He was just trying his best to get John Gruden to like him, and he was sucking up to John. It just didn't feel
it wasn't working.
It didn't feel easy in the relationship. It felt forced. That's how it looked on Hard Knocks. The other thing I did want to say about Mariota is Mike Mayock, I remember this clearly. In 2015, he had Marcus Mariota as his best quarterback in that draft, not Jameis Winston. So that's just something to see with that.
Good call. Wavy Bros says Kyle Trask to fall second round and Niners pick him up. Since Wilson will be gone, maybe draft a tackle or DB first round. That's what I would do. Absolutely. Vish isn't into Trask as much. Vish, so what would you do? I mean, you would take Trey Lance in round 1 if he's available? I just wouldn't do it.
I think I would, but I don't think I would. I think it would have to be a trade back deal. Trade back, accumulate picks, get him. And I think if they get him, I don't know if he's a day one starter because 13 starts in college is a little questionable. And he's not the level of athlete that Kyler Murray was, where 13 starts was sufficient for me. So that would be my only thing. But if to me, you go trade back, accumulate picks, maybe get an extra second rounder, a third. So now you have a lot of leverage in the top 3 rounds, and you can start retooling this roster to go with the fact that you have Trey Lance and you sign in Andy Dalton. I think that's a move.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I just don't like Trey Lance. To me, Trey Lance, it's like, here's the thing. Like, I don't know what the compare. Like, is he going to be Steve Young? Steve Young came out of BYU and was not ready to play quarterback in the NFL. He wasn't. Great player, one of the all-time great athletes in NFL history. He was a project, and he got it by the time he was about 30. Now, if he'd come out now, he could have had success early on, but you'd have to put him in the shotgun, in the gun, in the pistol, and let him be an athlete early in his career. And that's, to me, I think what's going to have to happen with Lance, because he's not a third-round pick. He's not going to be able to be the project unless he's picked in at around 25 by a team like Green Bay, although it won't be Green Bay, but you know what I'm saying, and he can sit behind Tom Brady or whatever. Unless that's what happens, he's going to have to get on the field. And to get him on the field, you're going to have to commit to the college-style offense because he's not ready to just drop back and dice up the NFL. So, if Kyle's ready to do that, then go for it. But I just don't think he wants to.
I think you just dropped a bit of gold in there, and I don't think you realized it.
What did I do?
You brought up the name Tom Brady. Trey Lance to the Bucks, to me, is super intriguing. To me, that's the kind of guy Bruce Arians would like. And if you can sit him for 1 year there behind Brady, that's something. Yeah, I could see that.
Sure. Yeah, he needs to go to a team like he needs to go to a situation like that. Just sit. Just because even if he does play right away and you put him in the pistol, dude has completed 200 passes since high school. Like, he really could benefit from a year on the bench. And he really could.
And the other thing with the quarterback market is that I think the team that we haven't considered, and now they have a top 5 pick, is Miami. If they were all in on Tua and they weren't just starting him because they really just want to see him get reps, they wouldn't be pulling him from games that they're trying to win. Schefter reported it as soon as they started Tua that they're scared that this is going to be a really high pick. So, they want to see what they have in Tua just to make sure they don't have to take another quarterback. Brian Flores doesn't seem to be messing around playing this game of, I have Tua, he's this young guy, let me coddle him, all of that. He's yanking him when he's playing awful. And
the new trend in the league is if you think you got it wrong at quarterback, you move on.
Yeah.
I mean, Arizona did it, and that was the right call. You don't wait around and be like, well, maybe Dwayne Haskins will work out. No. You move on. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next question. And it's from GBG439. I can't find it, but it says, my reasoning for why they move Stafford is a coach does blow up rebuild for picks. Stafford wants to win a ring before retirement, plus as a favor to Matt.
That's my reasoning too, right? I think that the way the Niners get Matthew Stafford is if Matthew Stafford wants out. But that's where I don't know.
That's to me, if he's like, look, guys, I've been real loyal for 13 years, enough is enough. Then that's that. That's that.
Right. I want to go to a place where I can actually prosper. Totally understand it. That's always been my angle. But you know what? He built a big house in Michigan. I know that he does a lot for the Detroit community, and I think he's involved, even though his wife really hates Michigan. I don't know how she would coexist, happy wife, happy life. I don't know how she would coexist
I'm sure she would love the Bay Area. I'm sure she would just love it. Because
who knows?
Michigan is way too liberal, right?
Right. Who knows? But yeah,
I think Stafford's going to be a career Lion. I could be wrong. Well, same thing you said about T.Y.
Don't say that.
I'm so sorry. Okay, hold on. Let's move on. Getting a lot of questions today. Thank you. Hold on. I can read it and then I'll find it. Thoughts on Jameis Winston? I guess we already did that one. Sorry, we don't like Jameis Winston. Anything else? Any other questions? We're about an hour and a half in. Okay. How about keep Jimmy Garoppolo and sit Lance? Trade Jimmy Garoppolo at the end of the season if he has a decent year.
So keeping Jimmy Garoppolo isn't a bad option if he wasn't getting paid $27
That's to me the issue. The issue with Jimmy is the contract and the cap going down. That's what it is.
If the cap wasn't going down, this would actually not be a bad option at all. Just draft a guy. You still have Jimmy. It would be actually the only safe and option that you can say for sure that Niners can still be good next year because he's a solid player. But when you have a cap going down and you have to give two large contracts out, one to Fred Warner and one to Trent Williams, and you have 30 guys to look at, this is where just getting Jimmy off the books just changes who you can bring back and all of that. And that's why this entire conversation is so complex, and it's such a difficult spot for the 49ers because they could be in a position where they have no leverage to get the guys they want. And that's where you might not be getting an upgrade from Jimmy, and it could totally change the landscape and where the franchise moves from there.
So to me, every team is going to have a cap casualty because of the cap either going down or not going up. Every team is going to have a COVID cap casualty. And I think on the Niners, it's Jimmy. I think he fit their salary structure if the cap were to keep rising the way we expected it would before the world fell apart. But the world fell apart.
Yeah, if we weren't amidst a pandemic and we just had the normal cap, Jimmy's contract for the level of quarterback he is, every quarterback is, besides the top guys, is overpaid in some capacity. But Jimmy's contract would have put him as a middling quarterback, which is kind of what he is. He's a middling player. So I don't think people would be over scrutinizing it. But now the cap is going down. It's total unknown. And having him being paid highly is going to be a problem. And I think we're going to see a lot of highly paid quarterbacks like Matt Ryan. What's Atlanta going to do with that? Jared Goff. Yeah. What's the Rams going to do with that? Carson Wentz. What are the Eagles going to do with that? They have all those teams ask those same questions.
Big Golden Nuggets is peddling misinformation over here. He says it's only $16 million in savings if you cut Jimmy Garoppolo. Wait a second. 2021, his cap number would be $26.9, and the dead money would be $2.8 million. So my math isn't great, but I think that's $24.1 million in savings if they cut him. Am I missing that?
No, that's right.
$24 million. That's a lot of money, and they can use that to do the moves they need to do. They felt last year that DeForest Buckner couldn't fit in their salary structure, and moving him would create all the space they needed for everyone else. Now it's Jimmy's turn. Now Jimmy is the DeForest Buckner of 2021. Sorry, dude.
He might still end up being successful somewhere because he's a solid player and you can win with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's proven. And some coach might do that. But you know what? For the 49ers right now, just the way Kyle Shanahan feels about him and all of that, it's just the best decision to move on.
Well, I think the Niners' biggest issue with Jimmy beyond the contract, beyond the injuries, is his football IQ. I think it's pretty clear that they just don't feel his football IQ matches his arm talent, which is fine. But I can't help but notice that Patriots quarterbacks tend to all look really smart when they're playing in New England. And even Tom Brady, when he went from New England to Tampa, all of a sudden he's throwing more picks, making more decisions where you're like, ooh, you didn't do that in New England. So maybe there's something about that system, their elaborate series.
It's supposed to be totally different.
Yeah, I think they do a very good job of making the decision-making process easy for quarterbacks in New England.
Yeah.
They give a lot of pre-snap indicators. You're not turning your back to the defense very much. And there are very clear pictures of where to go as opposed to in this offense and other offenses. So yeah, Jimmy could do really well in New England. Hell yeah, he could.
Yeah. So I'm a big Chris Sims fan, right? And he worked in New England for a year as a quality controls. And he said that their offense, their verbiage is totally different. And two, every week they have 5 or 6 plays that they can call and it can be any coverage. They come up with Josh McDaniels schemes up where it's not if you see 2-man check to this, if you see this check to that. They're in 2-man, these are your reads. If this is that, this is your, and they have kind of plays that can be any type of coverage. And so they have stuff like that. He got to sit for 2 years learning that system. Most of their quarterbacks, they sit down and have them learn it for a while and get them comfortable. So it's totally different. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back there and is a solid player because he is a solid player for the 49ers. I just don't think that the Patriots would have the same questions that Kyle seems to have about him.
Also, Shanahan's system is built on explosive plays and downfield throws. And that's not Jimmy's game. Jimmy
and he's not willing to throw them.
He's not a great downfield thrower. He's not a willing downfield thrower. He is a New England short to intermediate passer. It's what they want to do. It's not particularly what Kyle wants. He's just a much better fit in New England. I hope he gets to go back there because I think he really could have a long career there if he can just stay healthy. That's the thing.
And I think New England really values quarterback personality. They want the down-to-earth kind of just one of the guys type guy because that's what Brady was. That's what Jimmy is. I don't think Kyle really cares about that. He likes Kirk Cousins, who's got the worst quarterback personality in the NFL. There's too many moments of teammates questioning him and he's way too good a player to be questioned like that. So yeah, I just don't think that he's just a great fit.
Big Golden Nugget said the way he got to $16 million is he's counting on an $8 million bridge quarterback. I wouldn't want to spend $8 million on a bridge quarterback you don't even like that much in a year that the cap's going down. You can get guys for like less than that. I mean, if Andy Dalton needs $8 million a year, good luck, Andy. I mean, he's not going to win games.
I would do it for Andy.
I don't know. Maybe.
How much?
What's he making right now?
Well, I think it's 5 or 7.
Yeah, 5. 5's fine. I would do 5, but 8? What's Fitzpatrick going to command? I mean, he's old. 8?
No, I'm not touching Fitz.
I don't know. Anyway,
the moment you touch Fitz after Fitz magic is there for a year, you get Fitz tragic. Don't give me Fitz tragic.
Also,
please.
if you draft a quarterback and you sign Fitzpatrick's going to beat that guy out. It's going to happen.
Depends.
Unless you get Trevor Lawrence. If
he's contented with his money, he might not.
It's Trey Lansing. If it's Trey Lansing, it's Ryan Fitzpatrick in training camp. Good luck, Trey. Good luck, buddy.
That's my thing with Kyle. We're talking about a coach whose first priority for his quarterback besides toughness, we broke this down, right? I think last week is knowing where to go with the ball within the offense. That means you need full command, and it's a tough offense to learn from how wordy it is and all of that. Kyle makes it easy for the quarterback, but the words and all of that is tough. So
real quick before we end, I think we wanted to talk about Mullins in the sense that this is why Mullins wasn't benched.
Yeah,
this is why they stuck with him, even when all you guys were saying get rid of him. Explain it, Vish.
So I have a different theory. Like, yes, Mullins is better than CJ, right? I think we can agree with about that for the
Kyle
most
said it.
part.
I mean, we all
But
yes.
to me, the reason I think they were sticking by playing Nick Mullins through all those turnovers and everything is because I think they were confident that they could bring Nick Mullins back. And I don't think they were confident about bringing CJ Beathard back, which means that there's no point in playing CJ Beathard for 3 games because what are you going to get out of it? But playing Nick Mullins, hopefully you can get another Giants game and you can build on it to the next year where he might once again have to start 2 games if you get rid of Jimmy and the rookie quarterback that you draft is not ready to play, or you don't get a Matthew Stafford. So that means you just bring in another guy in camp to compete with Mullins, and maybe you're stuck in a situation like that. So I understand. That's where I think that's why they kept sticking by Nick Mullins. I think it was the fact that they were pretty confident that he would be the guy that comes back and CJ wouldn't. I think that's what
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. They saw Nick Mullins as their backup of maybe not long term, but at least the immediate future.
Because they can tender him and bring him back for $3 million. Yeah,
that's right. So that's why they stuck with him, and I think that makes sense. Real quick before we go. Black Samurai says, all things aside, Stafford would only cost $20 million next year due to signing bonus of $10 million. It's true. Lions would be on the hook for Jimmy. Yeah, I mean, he makes all the sense. If the Niners can get Matthew Stafford, God love you. Go for it. A+ offseason. I just don't think it's going to happen. But if it does, Vish gets the credit. Vish pulled that off. I don't want to hear Parag beating his chest. No, it was Vish.
No, Parag can beat his chest. I'm a Parag guy.
Angel says Gardner Minshew, he's better than Jimmy and Goff, arguable better at throwing than Murray, and he's cheaper than them. We could have him for a 4th or a 5th.
Wait, which Gardner Minshew are we talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Gardner Minshew isn't a bad backup quarterback.
No, he's fine.
Yeah, Gardner. Yeah, Gardner. Yeah, nah. 4th or 5th is too rich for Gardner Minshew. Though I think he's another reason why the Jacksonville job is kind of viable because I think he's a legit backup quarterback, and now you get Trevor Lawrence and a legitimate backup.
Do they draft 1 or 2 quarterbacks this year?
Who?
The Niners.
Jacksonville. The Niners.
Wow. I think they need 3 quarterbacks. I think they need a new rule because I'm not saying they're going to get rid of Nick Mullins, but Nick Mullins isn't going to play next year. I don't think.
Yeah, so I do agree with you that they need 3 quarterbacks, especially because I think we've all subscribed to the mentality that Jimmy's cut is inevitable and it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, casualty.
But I just, how can you waste 2 different picks on quarterbacks when you've got a team that you're looking to push to win now, and you've got a couple other roster holes that are opening up and you got to fill real quick, just like that.
It's
true. You got to bring in starters. You can't. If you don't bring back Tart, you can't go into the season with Moore and Jimmy Ward. You got to bring in someone to compete with him. He's not ready to just be handed the starting job. Then you'll be stuck in the Adrian Colbert type situation.
Also, you don't know how many games Jimmy Ward's going to give you in a given year. You just don't.
Right.
So
right, and even if you bring back Tart, it's still the same question for him thus far in his career. Both Ward and Tart have been great when they played, but they've also had a lot of injuries.
Man, the Niners really could use 12 draft picks this year. Well, they'll figure it out, and we'll do our best to help them out. I think we should wrap it up here. We're about an hour and 40 in. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us. We still have 1,000 people watching. You guys are really quite attentive and generous and enthusiastic. Thank you so much. Vish will be back. We'll be back on Monday. Even the season will be over. We'll have a lot.
For sure. And maybe Grant will be coming on my channel sometime this week, hopefully soon. Schedule.
Of course. You just
hopefully
let me know.
His schedule works out. So, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.